This is ready to go online. Any questions?
Yeah, I got one. How about the best network imaginable? Let's invent that.
That's what we do here.
Quick survey. Who wants their internet to work pretty much everywhere?
And it needs to run smooth, like super smooth.
Hey, should you be drinking that?
It's decaf. Because we're busy women.
We don't have time for lag or buffering. Who doesn't want internet that helps AI do your homework even faster?
Come again?
Sorry, what was that?
Introducing the next generation 10G network, only from Xfinity. The future starts now.
The Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships is brought to you by the Xfinity 10G network. The future starts now with Xfinity. Take a piece of the Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships home with you. Stop by the USA Gym store on the concourse to purchase official Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics t-shirts, hoodies, and more. Or buy online at usagymstore.com.
And ladies and gentlemen, you see the countdown clock starting. Get on your feet. 7, 6, 5. Let's get ready to tumble.
Welcome to the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Championships here at SAP Center in San Jose, California, USA. Today's competition features the nation's top senior elite men's gymnasts. They're all here in San Jose pursuing event medals, focusing on a time-honored spot on Team USA, and vying to become this year's Xfinity U.S. All-Around Champion. And now, the senior men that are here to compete in the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Championships. For Penn State University, Joshua Carnes. For U.S. Air Force Academy, Oliver Zavell. For Penn State University, Matt Cormier. For Penn State University, Michael Artliff. For Penn State University, Landon Simpson. For U.S. Air Force Academy, Patrick Hoops. For Salto Center, Danelle Wittenberg. For Penn State University, Michael Giroux. For University of Oklahoma, Maxime Berezhnev. For Ohio State University, Cameron Nelson. For University of California, Berkeley, Tyler Shimizu. For University of Oklahoma, Fuzzy Bettis. For University of Oklahoma, Fuzzy Bettis. For Arizona State, Jackson Harrison. For Ohio State University, Chase Davenport Mills. For University of Oklahoma, Zachary Nunez. For University of Nebraska, Taylor Christopoulos. For Stanford University, Asher Hahn. For Stanford University, Colt Walker. For Stanford University, Jeremy Bischoff. For Stanford University, Riley Luce. For Stanford University, Blake Soon. For Stanford University, Brandon Briones. For Stanford University, Taylor Burkhart. For Stanford University, Coy Young. For Evo, Ian Sandoval. For Evo, Curran Phillips. For Gymnastics Olympica USA, Vahe Petrosian. For Evo, Stephen Netarosset. For Evo, Alex Carajone. For Nova, Alex Tapenis. For Evo, Shane Wiskus. For U.S. Naval Academy, Isaiah Drake. For Evo, Alex Diab. Please welcome for University of Illinois, Mike Fletcher. For Stanford University, Ian Gunther. For University of Illinois, Evan Manavong. For Stanford University, Brandon Gwynn. For University of Illinois, Connor McCool. For Stanford University, J.R. Cho. For Stanford University, for 5280 Gymnastics, Yul Muldauer. For Cypress Academy, Caden Clinton. For University of Michigan, Paul Judah. For University of Michigan, Cameron Bach. For University of Michigan, Landon Blixt. For University of Michigan, Javier Alfonso. For Cypress Academy, Dallas Hale. For University of Michigan, Crew Bold. And for University of Michigan, Frederick Richard. These are the senior men competing in the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Championships. At this time, we invite you to please rise, remove your hats, and direct your attention to our nation's colors for the playing of our national anthem. Thank you. Gymnasts may now prepare for competition in today's Xfinity U.S. Championships for senior men. Gymnasts may now begin their warm-up for rotation 1. This is the first of 2 days of competition for senior men. Individual event scores and up-to-the-moment standings will appear on the arena scoreboards. Each day's scores will be combined to determine final placement on each apparatus and in the all-around competition. Senior men, an award ceremony will follow Saturday's final session, honoring the top 6 on each apparatus and in the all-around competition. Gymnasts that opt to compete with 2 vaults will be eligible for vault medals. Saturday's Senior Men's Award Ceremony will also include the first introduction of your Team USA members, World Championships team selections, and Pan American Games team selections for 2023. Each gymnastics routine will be judged on the merits of content and the athletic execution of that content. The score for each routine is determined by adding together the routine's difficulty score and the execution score. And now introducing the USA Gymnastics judges for the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Championships men's competition. The Superior Jury and Video Review Panel, Dan Bachman and Butch Zunich. Judging on floor, Peter Wigan, Lenny Lucarello, Garrett DeJong, and Tom Kutz. Judging pommel horse are Michael Ash, Nate Dodson, Nat Hammond, and Andy Brown. The judges on rings are John Corbett, Brian Meeker, Mike Jussick, and Cameron Sweeney. Judging on vault are Ron Hill, George Crank, Mark Sherman, and Lynn Bowman. The judges on parallel bars are Craig Nesbitt, Dave Johnson, Tom McNamee, and Kevin Menz. And judging on high bar will be Scott Schaefer, Mick Kurth, Tim Michaels, and Sho Nakamori.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Jim Hill, your host for the evening and the weekend. I came out, met some new friends of mine here in the crowd. What we're going to do now in between rotations and before we get started, we're going to play a little game of Simon Says. So you guys know how to play that game, right? Everybody in the arena can participate. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. Simon Says, tap your head. Simon Says, rub your belly. Simon Says, point to the scoreboard. Now hug your neighbor. Oh, you're all out. We're going to keep this going all throughout the day. We're going to have some fun games for you guys while we're here. Make sure everybody gets included and interactive. Hope you guys are having a great time. We'll get back to the action here in just a few short minutes. Simon Says, high five your neighbor. Simon Says, go buy a t-shirt just like this one. Simon Says, clap for your judges. Simon Says, Grab your neighbor's popcorn and eat it. You guys have a great time this evening. We're going to get the action going here in just a few short moments. Thank you for joining us at the Xfinity U.S. Championships.
This concludes the warm-up, and competition begins with the start of rotation 1. Starting off on floor for Penn State, Joshua Carnes. On pommel horse for University of Oklahoma, Maxime Berezhnev. On rings for Stanford, Asher Hahn. On vault for Evo, Ian Sandoval, followed by Evo's Curran Phillips. On parallel bars for Illinois, Mike Fletcher. And on high bar for Cypress Academy, Caden Clinton. Ian Sandoval of Evo on vault. Up next on vault for Evo will be Curran Phillips. Maxime Berezhnev of Oklahoma on pommel horse. Up next on pommels for Ohio State will be Cameron Nelson. Mike Fletcher of University of Illinois on parallel bars. Caden Clinton of Cypress Academy on high bar. Asher Hogg of Stanford on rings. Joshua Carnes of Penn State on floor. Coming up next on parallel bars for Stanford will be Ian Gunther. Up next on high bar for University of Michigan, Paul Judah. Coming up on rings for Stanford will be Colt Walker. And up next on floor for Air Force, Oliver Zavell. Curran Phillips of Evo on vault. Up next on vault for Gymnastics Olympica USA will be Vahe Petrosian. Now on parallel bars for Stanford, Ian Gunther. Now on high bar for Michigan, Paul Judah. Cameron Nelson of Ohio State on pommel horse. Coming up next on pommels for UC Berkeley will be Tyler Shimizu. Vahe Petrosian of Gymnastics Olympica USA on vault. Up next on vault for Evo will be Alex Carajo. Colt Walker of Stanford on rings. Up next on rings for Stanford will be Jeremy Bishop. Ian Gunther of Stanford on parallel bars. Coming up next on P-bars for Stanford will be Brandon Gwynn. Oliver Zavell of Air Force Academy on floor. Coming up next on floor for Penn State will be Michael Artlip. Alex Caraggio of Evo on vault. Up next on vault for Nova, Alex Tepanis. Paul Judah of Michigan on high bar. Up next on high bar for Michigan, Cameron Bach. Now on vault for Nova, Alex Tepanis. Tyler Shimizu of UC Berkeley on pommel horse. Up next on pommels for Oklahoma will be Fuzzy Bennis. Alex Tepanis of Nova on vault. Coming up next on vault for Evo will be Shane Wiskus. Now on vault for Evo, Shane Wiskus. Cameron Bach of Michigan on high bar. Brandon Wynn of Stanford on parallel bars. Jeremy Bischoff of Stanford on rings. Shane Wiskus of Evo on vault. Coming up next on vault for Navy will be Isaiah Drake. Fuzzy Bennis of Oklahoma on pommel horse. Up next on pommels for Ohio State will be Chase Davenport. Michael Artlip of Penn State on floor. Up next on floor for Penn State will be Landon Simpson. Coming up on rings for Stanford will be Riley Luce. Up next on parallel bars for Stanford, J.R. Cho. Coming up on high bar for Michigan, Landon Blixt. Isaiah Drake of Navy on vault. Now on rings for Stanford, Riley Luce. Now on floor for Penn State, Landon Simpson. J.R. Chow of Stanford on parallel bars. Landon Blixt of Michigan on high bar. Coming up on P-bars for 5280, Yul Moldauer. Coming up on high bar for Cypress Academy, Dallas Hale. Riley Luce of Stanford on rings. Coming up next on rings for Stanford will be Brandon Briones. Landon Simpson of Penn State on floor. Coming up next on floor for Salto will be Donnell Wittenberg. Now on parallel bars for 5280, Yul Moldauer. Dallas Hale of Cypress Academy on high bar. Chase Davenport of Ohio State on pommel horse. Coming up on high bar for Michigan will be Crew Bold. Coming up next on pommel horse for Oklahoma, Zachary Nunez. Yul Moldauer of 5280 on parallel bars. Now on floor for Salto, Donnell Wittenberg. Now on high bar for Michigan, Crew Bold. Brandon Briones of Stanford on rings. Up next on rings for Stanford will be Taylor Burkhart. Crew Bold of Michigan on high bar. Donnell Wittenberg of Salto on floor. Now on rings for Stanford, Taylor Burkhart. Coming up next on floor for Penn State will be Michael Giroux. Up next on high bar for Michigan, Frederick Richard. Zachary Nunez of Oklahoma on pommel horse. Coming up next on pommels for University of Nebraska, Taylor Christopoulos. Taylor Burkhardt of Stanford on rings. Now on high bar for University of Michigan, Frederick Richard. Taylor Christopoulos of Nebraska on pommel horse. Frederick Richard of Michigan on high bar. Coming up next on rings for Stanford will be Coy Young. Now on rings for Stanford, Coy Young. Michael Giroux of Penn State on floor. Coy Young of Stanford on rings. This concludes competition in the first rotation. Gymnasts may now advance to their second event on the first night of the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. Gymnasts may now begin their warm-up for rotation 2.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a great group of amazing fans here with me today. We're going to play a little game called Headbanger. The way this is going to work is DJ Matty Matt is going to play a great rock and roll song, and these guys got counters on their heads, and they're going to head bang and see who gets the highest count. Are you guys ready? Here we go on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go! All right, switch. And switch again. Switch. Nice. Switch it up. Keep it going. And 3, 2, 1. Burn. Let's see what the numbers are. Here we go. These headbangers in the black had 62. The headbangers in the green had 91. Give it up for the green team. All right. All of you fans in the stands, my guys up here are going to help me out. It's time for the little air guitar. Are y'all ready? Start playing your guitar. Here we go. Everybody in the crowd, join us with your best air guitar. You might see yourself on the big screen. Give it.
One rotation down, 5 remaining on the first of 2 nights of competition here at the SAP Center and the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. Here are your top 5 in the all-around among senior men. In 5th place currently for Salto, Danelle Wittenberg. In 4th place for Evo, Shane Wiskus. In 3rd place for Stanford, Asher Hahn. Currently in 2nd place for University of Michigan, Frederick Richard. And leading the way with a 15.805 in the all-around for 52.80, Yul Moldauer. They are your leaders after the first rotation of the Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. This concludes the warm-up, and competition resumes with the start of rotation 2. Starting off on floor for University of Michigan, Paul Judah. Starting off on pommel horse for Air Force, Oliver Zavell. Starting off on rings for Ohio State, Cameron Nelson. Starting off on vault for Stanford, Colt Walker. Starting on parallel bars for Evo, Curran Phillips. And now on high bar for Stanford, Ian Gunther. Colt Walker of Stanford on vault. Coming up next on vault for Stanford will be Jeremy Bischoff. Oliver Zavell of Air Force on pommel horse. Paul Judah of Michigan on floor. Cameron Nelson of Ohio State on rings. Coming up next on floor will be Michigan's Cameron Bach. Ian Gunther of Stanford on high bar. Curran Phillips of Evo on parallel bars. Coming up next on pommel horse for Penn State will be Matt Cormier. Jeremy Bischoff of Stanford on vault. Coming up next on rings for Oklahoma will be Fuzzy Bennis. Coming up next on parallel bars for Gymnastics Olympica USA, Vahe Petrosian. And coming up next on high bar for Illinois, Evan Manavong. Now on vault for Stanford, Riley Luce. Riley Luce of Stanford on vault. Coming up next on vault for Stanford will be Brandon Briones. Fuzzy Bennis of Oklahoma on rings. Vahe Petrosian of Gymnastics Olympica on parallel bars. Cameron Bach of Michigan on floor. Matt Cormier of Penn State on pommel horse. Coming up next on floor for Michigan will be Landon Blixt. Up next on pommel horse for Penn State, Michael Artlip. Up next on rings for Ohio State will be Chase Davenport. And coming up, Brandon Briones of Stanford on vault. Vahe Petrosian of Gymnastics Olympica on parallel bars. Up next on P-bars for Evo will be Alex Caraggio. Coming up next on vault for Stanford will be Taylor Burkhart. Evan Manavong of Illinois on high bar. Coming up next on high bar for Stanford will be Brandon Gwynn. Taylor Burkhart of Stanford on vault. Coming up next on vault for Stanford will be Coy Young. Landon Blixt of Michigan on floor. Coming up next on floor for Michigan, Javier Alfonso. Chase Davenport of Ohio State on rings. Up next on rings for Nebraska will be Taylor Christopoulos. Michael Artlip of Penn State on pommel horse. Alex Caraggio of Evo on parallel bars. Coming up next on pommel horse for Penn State will be Landon Simpson. Up next on parallel bars for Nova will be Alex Tapanis. Now on vault for Stanford, Coy Young. Coy Young of Stanford on vault. Brandon Gwynn of Stanford on high bar. Coming up next on vault for Stanford, Asher Hahn. Coming up next on high bar for Stanford, J.R. Cho. Javier Alfonso of Michigan on floor. Up next on floor for Cypress Academy will be Dallas Hill. Taylor Christopoulos of Nebraska on rings. Alex Tapanis of Nova on parallel bars. Up next on rings for Oklahoma will be Maxim Bereznev. Up next on P-bars for Evo, Shane Wiskus. Now on vault for Stanford, Asher Hahn. Asher Hong of Stanford on vault. Now on high bar for Stanford, J.R. Cho. Landon Simpson of Penn State on pommel horse. Coming up next on pommels for Air Force, Patrick Hoops. Now on parallel bars for Evo, Shane Wiskus. J.R. Cho of Stanford on high bar. Coming up next on high bar for 5280, Yul Moldauer. Maxime Berezhnev of Oklahoma on rings. Coming up next on floor for Michigan will be Crew Bold. Shane Wiskus of Evo on parallel bars. Patrick Hoops of Air Force on pommel horse. Up next on pommels for Salto will be Donnell Wittenberg. Coming up next on parallel bars for Navy, Isaiah Drake. Now on high bar for 5280, Yul Moldauer. Now on floor for Michigan, Crew Bold. Now on parallel bars for Navy, Isaiah Drake. Yul Moldauer of 5280 on high bar. Coming up next on high bar for Illinois, Mike Fletcher. Crew Bold of Michigan on floor. Coming up on floor for Michigan will be Frederick Richard. Isaiah Drake of Navy on parallel bars. Coming up next on P-bars for Evo will be Ian Sandoval. Donnell Wittenberg of Salto on pommel horse. Coming up next on pommel horse for Penn State, Michael Giroux. Now on high bar for Illinois, Mike Fletcher. Mike Fletcher of Illinois on high bar. Now on floor for Michigan, Frederick Richard. Ian Sandoval of Evo on parallel bars. Now on pommel horse for Penn State, Michael Giroux. Michael Giroux of Penn State on pommel horse. Frederick Richard of Michigan on floor. Coming up next on floor for Cypress Academy will be Caden Clinton. Coming up next on pommel horse for Penn State will be Joshua Carnes. Now on pommel horse for Penn State, Joshua Carnes. Now on floor for Cypress Academy, Caden Clinton. Joshua Carnes of Penn State on pommel horse. Caden Clinton of Cypress Academy on floor. This concludes competition in the second rotation. Gymnasts may now advance to their third event on the first night of competition at the Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. Gymnasts competing in rotation 3 may now begin their warm-up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a great time here tonight at the gymnastics event. I've got some great fans here with me right now. We're going to move into our next game, our fun time. But first, I want to ask you, your name is Jacob, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Jacob, I got a quick question for you. Is there any one athlete or apparatus that is your favorite?
Floor.
So the floor is your favorite. That is awesome. What is something that they do on the floor that gets you really excited?
Just front twisting.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So what we're going to do right now, DJ Matty Matt is going to spin a great fun song for us, and we're going to get these athletes and these fans over here dancing for us. You guys, once they get us started, make sure you get up and check out the cam up there, and you might be on TV.
What's up, fans? Get loud, get on your feet, let me see those dance moves. Hey.
Everybody join in.
Don't stop, Tobias. Keep it going, buddy.
We are 2 rotations in on the first night of the Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championship Senior Men's Division. Let's take a look at the top 5 in the all-around. Currently in 5th place for Stanford, Riley Luce. In 4th place for 5280 Gymnastics, Yul Moldauer. In 3rd place for Stanford, Coy Young. 2nd place, University of Michigan's Frederick Richard. And the only man to have overcome 30 points with a 30.454 in the all-around so far for Stanford, Asher Hahn. They are your top 5 in the all-around heading into rotation 3. This concludes the warm-up, and competition resumes with the start of rotation 3. Now on floor for University of Illinois, Evan Manavong. On pommel horse for University of Michigan, Cameron Bach. On rings for Penn State University, Michael Artlip. On vault for Arizona State University, Jackson Harrison. On parallel bars for Stanford University, Jeremy Bischoff. And on high bar for Gymnastics Olympica USA, Vahe Petrosian. Jackson Harrison of Arizona State on vault. Coming up next on vault for Ohio State, Chase Davenport. Cameron Bach of Michigan on pommel horse. Up next on pommels for Michigan will be Landon Blixt. Michael Artlip of Penn State on rings. Up next on rings for Penn State, Landon Simpson. Vahe Petrosian of Gymnastics Olympica USA on high bar. Up next on high bar for Evo will be Alex Caraggio. Evan Manavong of Illinois on floor. Jeremy Bischoff of Stanford on parallel bars. Up next on floor for Illinois will be Connor McCool. Now on vault for Ohio State, Chase Davenport Mills. Coming up next on parallel bars for Stanford will be Riley Luce. Chase Davenport Mills of Ohio State on vault. Coming up next on vault for Oklahoma will be Zachary Nunez. Landon Blixt of Michigan on pommel horse. Up next on pommels for Cypress Academy, Dallas Hill. Now on parallel bars for Stanford, Riley Luce. Landon Simpson of Penn State on rings. Zachary Nunez of Oklahoma on vault. Coming up next on rings for Salto, Donnell Wittenberg. Up next on vault for Nebraska, Taylor Christopoulos. Now on pommel horse for Cypress Academy, Dallas Hill. Riley Luce of Stanford on parallel bars. Connor McCool of Illinois on floor. Alex Carajo of Evo on high bar. Coming up next on P-Bars for Stanford will be Blake Soon. Taylor Christopoulos of Nebraska on vault. Coming up on floor for 5280 will be Yul Moldauer. Now on rings for Salto, Donnell Wittenberg. Coming up next on vault for Oklahoma, Maxime Berezhnev. Now on parallel bars for Stanford, Blake Soon. Coming up on high bar for Nova will be Alex Tepanis. Now on floor for 5280, Yul Moldauer. Now on high bar for Nova, Alex Tepanis. Maxime Berezhnev of Oklahoma on vault. Up next on vault with his first of two vaults for Ohio State, Cameron Nelson. Donnell Wittenberg of Salto on rings. Coming up next on rings for Penn State will be Michael Giroux. Blake Soon of Stanford on parallel bars. Up next on P-Bars for Stanford, Taylor Burkhart. Yul Moldauer of 5280 on floor. Coming up next on floor for Illinois will be Mike Fletcher. Cameron Nelson of Ohio State on vault. Alex Tepenis of Nova on high bar. Coming up next on high bar for Evo will be Shane Wiskus. Dallas Hale of Cypress Academy on pommel horse. Coming up next on pommels from Michigan will be Frederick Richard. Now on parallel bars for Stanford, Taylor Burkhardt. Now with his second vault for Ohio State, Cameron Nelson. Cameron Nelson of Ohio State on vault. Michael Giroux of Penn State on rings. Taylor Burkhardt of Stanford on parallel bars. Now on high bar for Evo, Shane Wiskus. Coming up next on rings for Penn State will be Joshua Carnes. Coming up next on parallel bars for Stanford will be Coy Young. Now on parallel bars for Stanford, Coy Young. Shane Wiskus of Evo on high bar. Now on pommel horse for University of Michigan, Frederick Richard. Coming up next on high bar for Navy, Isaiah Drake. Coy Young of Stanford on parallel bars. Joshua Carnes of Penn State on rings. Coming up next on P-bars for Stanford, Asher Hahn. Up next on rings for Air Force, Oliver Zavell. Frederick Richard of Michigan on pommel horse. Coming up next on pommel horse for Cypress Academy, Caden Clinton. Mike Fletcher of Illinois on floor. Now on parallel bars for Stanford, Asher Hong. Up next on floor for Stanford will be Ian Gunther. Isaiah Drake of Navy on high bar. Up next on high bar for Evo will be Ian Sandoval. Oliver Zavell of Air Force on rings. Asher Hong of Stanford on parallel bars. Coming up next on P-bars for Stanford, Colt Walker. Now on high bar for Evo, Ian Sandoval. Ian Sandoval of Evo on high bar. Now on pommel horse for Cypress Academy, Caden Clinton. Colt Walker of Stanford on parallel bars. Caden Clinton of Cypress Academy on pommel horse. Coming up next on pommel horse for Michigan, Paul Judah. Up next on high bar for Evo will be Curran Phillips. Now on high bar for Evo, Curran Phillips. Curran Phillips of Evo on high bar. Now on pommel horse for Michigan, Paul Judah. Paul Judah of Michigan on pommel horse. This concludes competition in the third rotation. Gymnasts may now advance to their fourth event on the first night of the Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. Gymnasts may now begin the warm-up for rotation 4.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We're back here in the crowd with some amazing fans tonight. Our next game that we're going to play during this rotation is called Cookie Face. Here's how this game works. I've got all of my contestants right here next to me. They have all got an Oreo cookie. They are going to try to get the Oreo cookie from their forehead into their mouth without using their hands. Are you guys ready? All right, Campbell. Let's go. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go! Keep it going. You're almost there. Oh, he's got one. Everybody keep going. You got it. Oh, look right up there. You're almost there. Oh. Keep it going. Oh, I'm so close. No hands. Winner over there. No hands. Oh, hey, look at her. Yes, good job. Had a nice work. Keep it going. You're almost there. Come on, Campbell. You almost got it. Come on. Oh, Campbell, you almost had it. Nice work. Oh, you're almost there. Keep flinching. Yep. Oh, keep it going. So close. Cookie face. Nice. Good job. Keep it going. Everybody give it up for my cookie face contestants. All right, fans, be on the lookout for the big screen. We're going to move into emoji cam. What are we going to see first? If you see it, you do it. Come on. What's the next one? Go blue. Nice. Flex on them. Nice job. There you go. Keep it going. Oh, give Mom a kiss. All right, Cardinal. No, it's mad, not laughing. Huh? Just like that. Good job, buddy. You got it. Go ahead. Nice. You're already there. Last one. Here we go. Nice. Great job, you guys. We're going to get back to the action here in just a few short minutes.
This concludes the warm-up, and competition resumes with the start of rotation 4. Starting off on floor for Evo, Alex Carajo. Starting off on pommel horse for Stanford, Brandon Gwynn. Starting off on rings for Michigan, Landon Blixt. Starting on vault for Penn State, Landon Simpson. Starting on parallel bars for Ohio State, Chase Davenport Mills. And now on high bar for Stanford, Riley Luce. Landon Simpson of Penn State on vault. Coming up next on vault for Salto will be Donnell Wittenberg. Brandon Wynn of Stanford on pommel horse. Up next on pommels for Stanford, J.R. Cho. Landon Blixt of Michigan on rings. Up next on rings for Michigan will be Javier Alfonso. Riley Luce of Stanford on high bar. Up next on high bar for Stanford will be Blake Soon. Alex Carrazzo of Evo on floor. Up next on floor for Nova, Alex Tapanis. Now on vault for Salto, Danelle Wittenberg. Chase Davenport Mills of Ohio State on parallel bars. Coming up next on P-bars for Oklahoma, Zachary Nunez. Danelle Wittenberg of Salto on vault. Coming up next on vault for Penn State, Michael Giroux. J.R. Cho of Stanford on pommel horse. Now on floor for Nova, Alex Tapanis. Now on vault for Penn State, Michael Giroux. Michael Giroux of Penn State on vault. Coming up next on vault for Penn State, Joshua Carnes. Coming up next on floor for Evo will be Shane Wiskus. Coming up next on pommel horse for 5280 will be Yul Moldauer. Javier Alfonso of Michigan on rings. Shane Wiskus of Evo on floor. Coming up next on floor for Navy, Isaiah Drake. Blake Soon of Stanford on high bar. Zachary Nunez of Oklahoma on parallel bars. Up next on rings for Cypress Academy will be Dallas Hale. Now on vault for Penn State, Joshua Carnes. Joshua Carnes of Penn State on vault. Now on pommel horse for 5280, Yul Moldauer. Coming up next on vault for Air Force, Oliver Zavell. Coming up next on parallel bars for Nebraska, Taylor Christopoulos. Coming up next on high bar for Stanford will be Brandon Briones. Yul Moldauer of 5280 on pommel horse. Dallas Hale of Cypress Academy on rings. Oliver Zabel of Air Force on vault. Now on floor for Evo, Shane Wiskus. Brandon Briones of Stanford on high bar. Taylor Christopoulos of Nebraska on parallel bars. Up next on P-bars for Oklahoma will be Maxim Bereznev. Coming up next on pommel horse for Illinois, Mike Fletcher. Coming up next on rings for Michigan, Crew Bold. Michael Artlip of Penn State on vault. Mike Fletcher of Illinois on pommel horse. Shane Wiskus of Evo on floor. Coming up next on floor for Navy will be Isaiah Drake. Crew Bold of Michigan on rings. Now on high bar for Stanford, Taylor Burkhart. Maxim Bereznev of Oklahoma on parallel bars. Coming up next on P-bars for Ohio State, Cameron Nelson. Up next on pommel horse for Stanford will be Ian Gunther. Coming up next on rings for Michigan will be Frederick Richard. Taylor Burkhart of Stanford on high bar. Coming up next on high bar for Stanford will be Coy Young. Now on rings for Michigan, Frederick Richard. Isaiah Drake of Navy on floor. Coming up next on floor for Evo, Ian Sandoval. Ian Gunther of Stanford on pommel horse. Up next on pommels for Illinois, Evan Manavong. Cameron Nelson of Ohio State on parallel bars. Coming up next on P-Bars for UC Berkeley, Tyler Shimizu. Frederick Richard of Michigan on rings. Coming up next on rings for Cypress Academy, Caden Clinton. Now on high bar for Stanford, Coy Young. Coy Young of Stanford on high bar. Coming up next on high bar for Stanford will be Asher Hong. Ian Sandoval of Evo on floor. Tyler Shimizu of UC Berkeley on parallel bars. Evan Manavong of Illinois on pommel horse. Coming up next on floor for Gymnastics Olympica USA, Vahe Petrosian. Coming up next on parallel bars for Oklahoma, Fuzzy Venice. Caden Clinton of Cypress Academy on rings. Coming up next on rings for Michigan will be Paul Judah. Now on high bar for Stanford, Asher Hong. Asher Hong of Stanford on high bar. Fuzzy Venice of Oklahoma on parallel bars. Now on rings for Michigan, Paul Judah. Vahe Petrosian of Gymnastics Olympica USA on floor. Coming up next on High Bar for Stanford will be Colt Walker. Now on High Bar for Stanford, Colt Walker. Paul Judah of Michigan on rings. Coming up next on rings for Michigan will be Cameron Bach. Colt Walker of Stanford on High Bar. Coming up next on High Bar for Stanford will be Jeremy Bishop. Now on rings for Michigan, Cameron Bach. Cameron Bach of Michigan on rings. Jeremy Bishop of Stanford on High Bar. This concludes competition in rotation 4. Gymnasts may now advance to their 5th event of the Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. Gymnasts may now begin the warm-up for rotation 5.
All right, everybody, stand up. You guys think I got bigger muscles than us?
Let's see. Flex as hard as you can.
You got the direction from the camera up there. It's now time for our flex cam. I got Danny, Laura, Jenna, and Sarah gonna flex for us right now, show you what they're working with. I also got 2 ladies back here in green who chickened out right here. If you see yourself on the screen, show us your best flex.
Nice. Thank you. What size shirts do y'all wear?
Flex on them, boys.
Oh, dang.
Keep flexing. Yes, sir. Who's been eating their Wheaties? Nice.
They're going to flex right here.
Flex on them. Okay.
Oh, she was impressed. She was like, okay.
It's not time to talk on your phone. It's time to flex. Tell your mom. Hey. You know where the weight room's at? Let's go.
Oh. This man took his whole shirt off. How much more time we got? There you go. You're welcome.
After 4 rotations of the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships for senior men, here are your top 5 in the all-around competition. Currently in 5th place for Stanford, Coy Young. In 4th place for Salto, Danelle Wittenberg. In 3rd place for 5280, Yul Moldauer. In 2nd place for Michigan, Frederick Richard. And leading the way for Stanford with a 58.604 in the all-around, Asher Hahn. Your leaders after 4 rotations of the Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. This concludes the warm-up, and competition resumes with rotation 5. Starting off on floor for Stanford, Taylor Burkhardt. Starting off on pommel horse for Nova, Alex Tapanis. Starting off on rings for 5280, Yul Moldauer. Starting off on parallel bars for Air Force, Patrick Hoops. Starting off on high bar for Nebraska, Taylor Christopoulos. And starting off on vault for Cypress Academy, Dallas Hale. Dallas Hale of Cypress Academy on vault. Coming up next on vault for Michigan will be Frederick Richard. Alex Tapanis of Nova on pommel horse. Patrick Hoops of Air Force on parallel bars. Up next on pommels for Evo will be Shane Wiskus. Coming up on parallel bars for Salto will be Danelle Wittenberg. Taylor Christopoulos of Nebraska on high bar. Taylor Burkhardt of Stanford on floor. Yul Moldauer of 5280 on rings. Up next on floor for Stanford will be Coy Young. Coming up next on rings for Illinois will be Mike Fletcher. Now on vault for Michigan, Frederick Richard. Coming up next on high bar for Oklahoma, Maxim Berezhnev. Frederick Richard of Michigan on vault. Now on parallel bars for Salto, Danelle Wittenberg. Now on pommel horse for Evo, Shane Wiskus. Coming up next on vault for Cypress Academy will be Caden Clinton. Caden Clinton of Cypress Academy on vault. Shane Wiskus of Evo on pommel horse. Danelle Wittenberg of Salto on parallel bars. Mike Fletcher of Illinois on rings. Coming up next on pommel horse for Navy, Isaiah Drake. Up next on rings for Stanford, Ian Gunther. Maxim Berezhnev of Oklahoma on high bar. Now on floor for Stanford, Coy Young. Coming up on vault for Michigan, Paul Judah. Up next on parallel bars for Penn State will be Michael Giroux. And coming up on high bar for Ohio State, Cameron Nelson. Paul Judah of Michigan on vault. Coming up next on vault for Michigan will be Cameron Bach. Coy Young of Stanford on floor. Up next on floor for Stanford will be Asher Hong. Isaiah Drake of Navy on pommel horse. Michael Giroux of Penn State on parallel bars. Up next on pommel horse for Evo will be Ian Sandoval. Cameron Bach of Michigan on vault. Up next on P-bars for Penn State will be Joshua Carnes. Ian Gunther of Stanford on rings. Coming up next on rings for Stanford, Brandon Nguyen. And coming up next on vault for Michigan will be Landon Blixt. Now on floor for Stanford, Asher Hong. Cameron Nelson of Ohio State on high bar. Coming up next on high bar for Oklahoma, Fuzzy Venice. Landon Blixt of Michigan on vault. Joshua Carnes of Penn State on parallel bars. Asher Hong of Stanford on floor. Brandon Nguyen of Stanford on rings. Coming up next on parallel bars for Air Force will be Oliver Zavell. Coming up next on floor for Stanford will be Colt Walker. Ian Sandoval of Evo on pommel horse. Up next on pommels for Gymnastics Olympica USA will be Vahe Petrosian. Fuzzy Venice of Oklahoma on high bar. Coming up next on high bar for Arizona State will be Jackson Harrison. Now on pommel horse for Gymnastics Olympica USA, Vahe Petrosian. Oliver Zavell of Air Force on parallel bars. Coming up next on P-bars for Penn State, Michael Artlip. Now on floor for Stanford, Colt Walker. Vahe Petrosian of Gymnastics Olympica USA on pommel horse. Coming up next on pommels for Evo will be Steven Nedorosik. Jackson Harrison of Arizona State on high bar. Coming up next on high bar for Ohio State will be Chase Davenport Mills. Colt Walker of Stanford on floor. Up next on floor for Stanford will be Jeremy Bischoff. Now on floor for Stanford, Jeremy Bischoff. Now on pommel horse for Evo, Steven Nedorosik. Michael Artlip of Penn State on parallel bars. Coming up next on P-bars for Penn State, Landon Simpson. Steven Nedorosik of Evo on pommel horse. Coming up next on pommels for Evo will be Alex Correggio. Jeremy Bischoff of Stanford on floor. Coming up next on floor for Stanford will be Riley Luce. Chase Davenport Mills of Ohio State on high bar. Landon Simpson of Penn State on parallel bars. Now on pommel horse for Evo, Alex Correggio. Alex Correggio of Evo on pommel horse. Now on floor for Stanford, Riley Luce. Riley Luce of Stanford on floor. This concludes competition in the fifth rotation. Gymnasts may now advance to their sixth and final event on the first night of the Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. Gymnasts may now begin the warm-up for rotation 6.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, for our last rotation game of the evening, I've got these contestants here with me today. The game is called Marshmallow Toss. The goal of the game is to see who can throw as many marshmallows in the basket in a minute's time. We've got the throwers up here next to me, and we got the basket catchers down there. Are you guys ready? Here we go on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go! Keep it going. Good job. All right, throwers, take one step back. Throwers, step one step back. Nice. All right, throwers, one more step back. Keep it going. 20 seconds. Here we go. Who's going to win, red or blue? Keep it going. 10 seconds. Here we go. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Oh, stand still. Oh, wait. I got to count them. All right, come here. Let me see your baskets. All right, let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 in there. All right, here we go. What we got for the blue? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. You won't believe it. 17. Blue team wins. Great job, you guys. A little family rivalry right there. Nice job. Good job. All right, into our final rotation, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're enjoying the Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships.
With one rotation remaining tonight and 6 ahead on Saturday, here are your current top 5 in the all-around of the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships for senior men. In 5th place for Michigan, Frederick Richard. In 4th place for Stanford, Paul Judah. In 3rd place for Stanford, Coy Young. In 2nd place for 5280, Yul Moldauer. And still leading the way with a 72.165 in the all-around for Stanford, Asher Hong. They are your top 5 heading into the final rotation of the first night of the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. This concludes the warm-up, and competition resumes with the start of rotation 6. Starting off on floor for Oklahoma, Maxime Berezhnev. Starting off on pommel horse for Stanford, Taylor Burkhart. Starting off on rings for Evo, Shane Owiskus. Starting off on vault for Illinois, Mike Fletcher. Starting off on parallel bars for Michigan, Crew Bowl. And now on high bar for Salto, Tadell Wittenberg. Mike Fletcher of Illinois on vault. Up next on vault for Stanford, Ian Gunther. Brubold of Michigan on parallel bars. Up next on P-bars for Michigan, Frederick Richard. Shane Owiskus of Evo on rings. Maxime Berezhnev of Oklahoma on floor. Tadell Wittenberg of Salto on high bar. Taylor Burkhart of Stanford on pommel horse. Ian Gunther of Stanford on vault. Coming up next on floor for Ohio State will be Cameron Nelson. Coming up next on pommel horse for Stanford, Coy Young. Up next on rings for Navy, Isaiah Drake. Up next on vault for Illinois, Evan Manavong. Coming up next on parallel bars for Michigan, Fred Richard. And coming up next on high bar for Penn State, Michael Giroux. Now on parallel bars for Michigan, Frederick Richard. Now on pommel horse for Stanford, Coy Young. Now on high bar for Penn State, Michael Giroux. Now on vault for Illinois, Evan Manavong. Evan Manavong of Illinois on vault. Coming up next on vault for Stanford will be Brandon Gwynn. Isaiah Drake of Navy on rings. Michael Giroux of Penn State on high bar. Coy Young of Stanford. Frederick Richard of Michigan on parallel bars. Coy Young of Stanford on pommel horse. Cameron Nelson of Ohio State on floor. Coming up next on floor for Berkeley will be Tyler Shimizu. Up next on pommel horse for Stanford will be Asher Hahn. Coming up on rings for Evo will be Alex Diaz. Coming up on parallel bars for Cypress Academy, Caden Clinton. And up next on high bar for Penn State will be Joshua Carnes. Now on vault for Stanford, Brandon Gwynn. Brandon Gwynn of Stanford on vault. Now on pommel horse for Stanford, Asher Hong. Coming up next on vault for Illinois will be Connor McCool. Caden Clinton of Cypress Academy on parallel bars. Up next on P-bars for Michigan will be Paul Judah. Joshua Carnes of Penn State on high bar. Up next on high bar for Air Force will be Oliver Zavell. Asher Hong of Stanford on pommel horse. Now on rings for Evo, Alex Diab. Now on vault for Illinois, Connor McCool. Coming up on pommel horse for Stanford will be Colt Walker. Connor McCool of Illinois on vault. Coming up next on vault for 5280 will be Yul Moldauer. Tyler Shimizu of UC Berkeley on floor. Up next on floor for Arizona State will be Jackson Harrison. Now on high bar for Air Force, Oliver Zavell. Now on parallel bars for Michigan, Paul Judah. Coming up next on vault for 5280 will be Yul Moldauer. Alex Diab of Evo on rings. Coming up next on rings for Evo, Ian Sandoval. Now on vault for Stanford, Yul Moldauer of 5280 on vault. Oliver Zavell of Air Force on high bar. Paul Judah of Michigan on parallel bars. Colt Walker of Stanford on pommel horse. Coming up next on pommels for Stanford, Jeremy Bischoff. Coming up next on rings for Evo, Ian Sandoval. Up next on parallel bars for Michigan will be Cameron Bach. Up next on high bar for Penn State will be Michael Artlip. Jackson Harrison of Arizona State on floor. Coming up next on floor for Ohio State will be Chase Davenport Mills. Michael Artlip of Penn State on high bar. Now on parallel bars for Michigan, Cameron Bach. Now on pommel horse for Stanford, Riley Luce. Now on rings for Gymnastics Olympica USA, Vahe Petrosian. Riley Luce of Stanford on pommel horse. Cameron Bach of Michigan on parallel bars. Vahe Petrosian of Gymnastics Olympica USA on rings. Coming up next on parallel bars for Michigan will be Landon Blixt. Landon Simpson of Penn State on high bar. Up next on rings for Evo will be Alex Caraggio. Coming up next on pommel horse for Stanford, Blake Soon. Up next on floor for Oklahoma will be Zachary Nunez. Now on rings for Evo, Alex Caraggio. Blake Soon of Stanford on pommel horse. Alex Caraggio of Evo on rings. Landon Blixt of Michigan on parallel bars. Coming up next on P-bars for Michigan, Javier Alfonso. Coming up next on rings for Nova, Alex Tepanis. Zachary Nunez of Oklahoma on floor. Coming up next on floor for Nebraska will be Taylor Christopoulos. Now on rings for Nova, Alex Tepanis. Alex Tepanis of Nova on rings. Now on floor for Nebraska, Taylor Christopoulos. Javier Alfonso of Michigan on parallel bars. Coming up next on parallel bars for Cypress Academy will be Dallas Hale. Taylor Christopoulos of Nebraska on floor. Dallas Hale of Cypress Academy on parallel bars. This concludes day one of competition of the 2023 Men's Xfinity U.S. Gymnastics Championships. Please join us in recognizing all of these talented athletes. Great thanks to our judges for all of their hard work and dedication. Gymnastics fans, we want to thank you for your support of the incredible athletes competing this weekend at the SAP Center here in beautiful San Jose, California for the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Men's Championships. Be sure to come back tomorrow to cheer on junior women in the afternoon and senior women in the evening for the 2023 Xfinity U.S. Championships. For a full list of events, visit usgymchampionships.com. Thank you for your support of these USA gymnasts, and please have a safe trip home.
the name.